Hello, welcome to Frontiersman Live. I am Frontiersman Managing Editor Matt Hickman, joined today on our inaugural edition by first-year Senator representing Wasilla, Senator David Wilson. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so you recently wrapped up your first year in the Senate. Well, how would you describe it?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
It's a challenging year for Alaska in general, and we joke around with other representatives that this first year with all the special sessions, it's pretty much 2 years all wrapped into one,
Yeah.
2.5.
Well, so you head back then at the end of January into February. How do you think year two or the next session will be different? Do you guys be more? Do you expect as many special sessions?
We don't know. It really depends on how budget talks. We just got the governor's budget. I haven't really been able to dive into it a lot, but there are a lot of issues in that budget that definitely needs to be addressed.
What do you think is going to be the biggest issue in Juneau in 2018?
Biggest issue is going to be the permanent fund and how the earnings reserve is utilized this year, and the potential talk of taxes and that debate in the House and between the House and the Senate and the governor is going to be an interesting conversation to have. I think that's going to be the foremost, is going to be our physical situation.
What's your pet cause for 2018? What do you really want to drive?
Healthcare costs. I really believe that healthcare costs, Department of Health and Social Services, depending on how you look at it, is probably #1 expenditure over education if you include the private sector and the cost that they spend for their health insurance and just healthcare in general, and trying to make sure we have I don't want to say affordable healthcare costs in Alaska, but make sure that we can drive down the price, and which we do believe we hopefully can.
So in your first year, what was the biggest surprise about what life is like in Juneau?
It's never what it really truly, what people think it is. I tell people you don't know hot until you put your hand on the stove, and how long you can keep your hand on the stove, and the tolerance of that was, I think, the biggest surprise of some of the things that you expect one way and it's totally the opposite.
And recently you've had some headlines around the state regarding an issue of kind of a bizarre sort of sexual harassment claim that proved, to be pretty much unwarranted once the surveillance camera was revealed. What is that? What do you have to say about that event, for starters?
That situation was an unfortunate situation. It all started back in October when we had a blogger try to blog and try to entice some response out of his blog, and then that story, working with a local news reporter from KTVA, also taking issue in that story. And I feel that you shouldn't be able to create the news to report the news. And so I never really had an accuser. I never had a complaint file, but I was defending myself as if I was already guilty. And from that standpoint, what that put myself through, what it put my family through, I wish this on nobody. It's just when the facts and the information was there, the evidence was there, and no one wanted to do their due diligence to seek the truth. And they just wanted to make claims and make false claims at that, just for political gain or for other personal gain. In the case of the reporter and the blogger, I felt was really wrong and just so unjust in so many different ways. It made me try to defend myself, my reputation, in ways that I never thought I would have to do. People, I'm not a bully, I'm not, someone that goes and tries to antagonize individuals, but I will fight and believe for what I do believe I will fight for. And there's so many things that happen in Juneau that it's just surprising that I thought people were there to try to do what's best for the state of Alaska. That's why I went, is try to do what I felt was best for my constituents and for the state of Alaska. And not everyone has those causes. People in power would like to keep that power. And the way that they do it, I find, is really, there's another word but then despicable.
Yeah, I mean, you called for the resignation of the speaker and others. When did you feel like you had to really be aggressive that way, not just defend yourself, but really sort of take the next step?
When the evidence started to show that they had the information that I did not sexually harass or harass anyone, and that they had the truth and they just stood by to do nothing. It was when I was told that in all intents and purposes he let me just hang and burn. I mean, they didn't do anything whatsoever. They just wanted me to be out there withholding the truth. And I find that just so wrong on so many levels, when they could have just easily just said, hey, a situation occurred, it was uncomfortable, but hey, Senator Wilson did not sexually harass anyone. could have been easily been made, and they chose not to. I've tried to come to mediation and resolution with the House members on this issue, and to find out that nothing occurred, and they just chose to do this was just wrong. And then the rules chair, in her HR capacity, to make those statements and say, I did those things, she was speaking out of line. And at that, she needs to be held accountable for her actions and her words. I mean, it's something that was quite offensive to put someone through.
So you were trying to listen in on the closed door conversation?
It was nothing like that. I was being asked to leave. I was having a conversation with someone in the hallway, and I was interrupted twice. And that's why I want the video to come out. It showed without any type of subjectivity of what occurred. And I was, just being so rudely interrupted on those occasions when trying to have the conversation. I was like, look, if I was going to listen in, this is how I'm going to listen in. And that was it. It was out of a lot of frustration. I wasn't trying to, people say I was trying to be meddling or playful. It wasn't that at all. I was being told where I could be, where I could not be. I don't belong in this hallway, and you need to move along. And it wasn't done in a very appropriate way. It was very rude, very disrespectful. And I felt that my interactions would have, to have a conversation with that person's employer, was where I tried to have that conversation with from that day after until recently, when we finally were able to have that conversation a little bit.
So what do you take away from that experience that you take into year 2 in Juneau? What has that taught you about how the game is played?
And that's the bad part. I tell people I hate the politics in politics. It should not be there. We're there to take care of the business of the state of Alaska. And that's what I went down there for. My expertise is in healthcare, and that's why I went there, and that's why I went to become the chair of the Senate Health and Social Services Committee, because of my background and experience. I wanted to be a skill-based type of position, or folks should be placed where they're most suited for their skill level. And going forth, I feel that is garnered a lot of experience of, basically trust no one. I mean, there's only a handful of folks that you can actually probably truly trust in the situations, and everything can be used for political gain is what it's taught me, and that's the wrong reasons for people to be down there.
Okay. So over the holidays and then before you go back to session, you having meetings at the LIO office, or what do you have planned for the local community?
Yeah, we just had the Senior Center Coalition. We met with them last Friday. Today we're meeting with the Oil and Gas Association folks the ADGC, the Alaska Development Gas Corporation, and to talk with them about their new recent MOAs, I guess you would call them, and agreements. And just meet with a couple of local other constituencies to understand. We meet with the borough delegation, the assembly, to talk about their priorities, which is a public meeting on January 2nd, from 9 to 3, with, I believe, public testimony at 1 or 1:30 for folks.
What are you looking to accomplish with that meeting with the borough?
To understand some of their priorities, to see what their maybe capital items are, what are their main issues, and to get a sort of a Mat-Su delegation priorities of what's important for them, so we can, as a delegation, Mat-Su delegation, can go forth and try to advocate for on their behalf.
Okay, sounds good. And if people want to get in touch with you or your staff, what's the best way?
They can either come down to the Mat-Su LIO, or they could call our office at 907-465-3878, or shoot an email at sen.david.wilson@akleg.gov.
All right. Well, I think that'll about do it. Thank you for coming by, Senator, and check us out at www.frontiersman.com, and thank you for reading The Frontiersman.
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it.